For more than a decade, Sister Wives fans watched Kody Brown build his life around one belief. Plural marriage was supposed to last forever. 4 wives, 1 family, 1 husband, and a future that Kody once imagined would continue for generations. But today, that entire picture has been turned upside down. Christine is gone. Janelle is gone. Meri is gone. And after all those years, Robyn Brown is the only wife still standing beside Kody. But here's the question that makes this story so much more interesting. Does being Kody's last wife automatically mean Robyn will be his forever wife? Because the answer isn't as simple as it appears. And when you look closely at what Kody and Robyn themselves have said about their marriage, there are some surprising cracks beneath the surface. Let's go back to the beginning. When viewers first met Kody Brown in 2010, he wasn't just introducing a new wife. He was introducing a completely new chapter of the Brown family. Kody already had Meri, Janelle, and Christine. Then came Robyn. She was younger, divorced, and entering a family that already had years of history behind it. At the time, nobody could have predicted what would eventually happen. Robyn was supposed to become another piece of Kody's plural marriage puzzle. Instead, more than a decade later, she became the only remaining piece. Kody and Robyn spiritually married in 2010, and their legal marriage followed in 2014 after Kody legally divorced Meri. And that detail became increasingly important as the years passed, because while Kody's other relationships eventually collapsed, his relationship with Robyn survived. At least publicly, Christine was the first major domino. In November 2021, Christine announced that she and Kody were separating after decades together. Then came Janelle. In December 2022, Janelle confirmed that her relationship with Kody had ended. And eventually, Meri's relationship with Kody reached its own final chapter. One by one, the women who had built the Brown family with him moved on. Today, recent reporting confirms that Robyn is the only wife Kody remains married to, and that's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Because Kody spent years defending plural marriage. But now he is living the very thing that was once completely different from the life he promoted: monogamy, just Kody, just Robyn, no sister wives, no rotating households, no plural family structure, no other women sharing the marriage. And that raises a huge question. Is this what Kody actually wanted all along? Or is this simply what happened after everything else fell apart? It would be easy to assume that Robyn must be happier now. After all, she's finally the only wife. She doesn't have to compete for Kody's time. She doesn't have to share him with Meri, Janelle, or Christine. And she doesn't have to worry about another wife living down the street. But the reality shown on the series has been much more complicated. Kody himself admitted that he and Robyn were fighting for our marriage after the breakdown of his other relationships. That's an important statement. Because if Kody and Robyn were simply living happily ever after, why would they describe themselves as fighting for their marriage? Kody explained that the family breakups had affected their relationship, and Robyn described Kody as going through emotional ups and downs. According to Robyn, there were moments when Kody returned to the person she knew and their relationship felt beautiful, but then something would happen. And he would become, in her words, more like the Wongri divorced guy. Think about that for a second. Robyn didn't describe a man who had completely escaped the chaos. She described a man who was still carrying the emotional consequences of the collapse of his family. And that could become one of the biggest challenges in their marriage. This is a part of the story that doesn't get discussed enough. When Meri, Janelle, and Christine left, Kody wasn't the only person affected. Robyn lost the family structure too. She went from being one of 4 wives to being the only wife. That sounds like an advantage, but emotionally it could be something completely different. For years, Robyn had talked about wanting the family. She wanted her children to grow up with the other Brown children. She wanted the plural family experience. And now, that family doesn't exist in the same way. Christine has remarried David. Janelle has moved into a new chapter of her life and, in August 2026, publicly introduced her boyfriend, Pete. Meri has also moved forward with her own life. The women who once shared one family with Robyn are now building separate futures. And Robyn is left with Kody, only Kody. If Kody is now monogamous, does that mean he's finished with plural marriage? That's where things get complicated. During the Sister Wives storyline, Kody told Robyn that another woman had contacted him about potentially joining their marriage. Robyn's reaction was not exactly enthusiastic. She reportedly called the woman's approach inappropriate, particularly because the contact was directed toward Kody. And suddenly, the biggest question returned, could Kody actually take another wife? Now, we need to be very careful here. There is no confirmed evidence that Kody is currently adding another wife. So this should not be presented as a confirmed divorce or new marriage announcement. But as a storyline, it's fascinating because Kody and Robyn are now living in a completely different relationship than the one they originally entered. And the possibility of another wife immediately puts pressure on the question of whether Robyn truly wants monogamy. Imagine Robyn's position. She watched 3 women leave Kody. She watched the family fall apart. She watched Kody become increasingly emotional over his failed relationships. And now she finally has him to herself. But what if Kody's old worldview isn't completely gone? What if the idea of plural marriage never completely disappeared? And what if Robyn doesn't want to go through the same chaos again? That could explain why the idea of another woman would be uncomfortable for her, because Robyn isn't simply protecting her marriage, she may also be protecting the life she has left. While Kody and Robyn are trying to navigate their new reality, Janelle has just given fans another reason to compare the two lives. Janelle recently went public with Pete, describing the relationship as something unexpected that became meaningful to her. Christine immediately supported the relationship, calling Pete an awesome guy. And suddenly, the contrast couldn't be clearer. Kody's former wives are building new lives. Christine has remarried. Janelle has found unexpected happiness. Meri continues exploring life after Kody. And Kody, he's still with Robyn. Which brings us back to the central question, is Robyn really Kody's forever wife? Maybe. But the story we're seeing doesn't look like a simple happily ever after. It looks like 2 people trying to figure out what their relationship becomes after the family they built their lives around has disappeared. And that may be the real beginning of Kody and Robyn's story. Because for the first time, there are no sister wives left to hide behind. It's just them. And now the world gets to see what happens when there is nowhere else for either of them to go. There is something almost ironic about where Kody Brown's life has ended up. For years, Kody presented himself as a man committed to plural marriage. He didn't simply describe it as a lifestyle. He treated it as part of his identity. The Brown family was built around the idea that one man could maintain multiple marriages while creating one large connected family. But now that family structure has almost completely disappeared. Christine left, Janelle left, Meri left, and Robyn is the only wife remaining with Kody. So the question isn't really whether Kody can live monogamously. He's already doing it. The real question is, does Kody actually want this life? Because those are 2 very different things. When Christine walked away, something changed in Kody. When Janelle followed, the damage became even more obvious. And when Meri finally accepted that their relationship was over, the original Brown family was essentially finished. Kody was left with Robyn. But losing 3 marriages doesn't automatically make the surviving marriage stronger. In fact, it can put enormous pressure on it. Kody and Robyn suddenly had to deal with something they had never experienced before. There was no longer a plural family to balance. There were no other wives, no other marriages, no competing households, no family meetings involving 4 adults. No need to divide Kody's time between different homes. Everything was now concentrated on one relationship, their relationship. And that can be both a blessing and a burden. For years, one of the biggest criticisms surrounding Kody and Robyn was the perception that Robyn was his favorite. Christine, Janelle, and Meri all experienced Kody's changing attention in different ways. Fans watched Kody become increasingly emotionally distant from his other wives while appearing deeply connected to Robyn. But here's the twist. Once the other marriages disappeared, Robyn didn't necessarily win. She inherited all of Kody's attention, including all of his emotional baggage. Think about that. Before, Kody could move between households. He could spend time with different children. He could shift his focus. Now, there is no escape from the central relationship. If Kody is angry, Robyn sees it. If Kody is frustrated, Robyn experiences it. If Kody is grieving the loss of his family, Robyn is the person standing beside him. And that's exactly why Kody's admission that he and Robyn were fighting for our marriage matters so much. Their marriage didn't magically become perfect after the other women left. Instead, the 2 of them had to confront the consequences together. Robyn has repeatedly shown concern about Kody's emotional state. She has described the man she fell in love with as being different from the angry, hurt version she sometimes sees now. And that difference is important because Kody isn't simply dealing with relationship breakups. He's dealing with the collapse of a family system he spent decades building. His relationship with his children has also been affected. There have been painful estrangements and conflicts within the Brown family, and Robyn has been standing in the middle of much of that. That means her marriage isn't operating in a vacuum. Every family conflict can potentially enter their relationship. Every criticism of Kody can become another source of tension, and every new chapter in the lives of his former wives can remind them both of what they've lost. And this is where the contrast becomes almost impossible to ignore. Janelle, one of Kody's former wives, recently introduced Pete publicly. Her announcement immediately generated attention because fans had watched Janelle spend years navigating the difficult end of her relationship with Kody. Now she is showing viewers something completely different, a woman moving forward. Janelle has described her relationship with Pete positively, and the public reaction has largely focused on how happy and comfortable she appears. Online. Calm. Christine has also welcomed Pete into the picture. And suddenly, Janelle's story isn't about what she lost, it's about what she found afterward. That's a powerful contrast to Kody's situation, because Kody is still dealing with the emotional consequences of the past. Meanwhile, his former wives are demonstrating what life after Kody can look like. Then there's Meri. For years, fans watched Meri remain emotionally connected to Kody despite the marriage becoming increasingly distant. Their relationship became one of the most complicated stories in the entire series. But eventually, Meri stopped waiting. She moved forward. And that matters because Meri was once the legal wife who helped establish the family structure. She was there before Janelle. She was there before Christine. And she was there long before Robyn entered the picture. Yet eventually, even Meri accepted that her relationship with Kody had reached its end. So now look at the situation from Robyn's perspective. The woman who joined the family last is now the only wife remaining. That is an extraordinary reversal. This is where we need to separate what we know from what fans speculate. We know Kody and Robyn remain married. We know they have gone through serious strain. We know Kody has acknowledged that they were working to preserve their marriage, and we know the collapse of his other relationships affected their household. But we don't have evidence proving that Robyn secretly wants to leave Kody. We also don't have evidence that Kody is currently preparing to divorce Robyn. So saying Robyn is leaving would be speculation, but asking whether their marriage is truly as secure as fans once assumed, that's completely reasonable because their own public comments have shown that they have had problems. Now let's return to the most explosive part. The possibility of another woman. During the Sister Wives storyline, Kody told Robyn that a woman had reached out about potentially joining their family. Robyn's reaction was extremely telling. She didn't appear excited by the possibility. Instead, she questioned the woman's approach and made it clear that she didn't appreciate the way the situation was handled. And that creates a fascinating conflict because Kody spent years saying plural marriage was important to him, but Robyn appears much less interested in reopening that chapter. So what happens if Kody genuinely becomes interested in plural marriage again? Would Robyn accept it? Would she walk away? Or would Kody finally choose monogamy completely? Those are questions that the show has left hanging. Kody now has a decision he never expected to face. He can continue living with Robyn as a monogamous couple, or he could theoretically try to rebuild the plural marriage structure. But rebuilding it would be incredibly complicated. His previous marriages didn't simply end because the women wanted different schedules. There were years of emotional conflicts, family disagreements, broken trust, and disagreements over Kody's relationships with his children. Starting over with another wife wouldn't erase any of that. In fact, it could reopen everything. And Robyn knows it. This is perhaps the biggest unanswered question. What happens if Kody says, I still believe in plural marriage, and Robyn says, I don't want that anymore? Then Kody would be forced to choose, not between 4 wives, not between 3 households, just between 2 possible futures, a monogamous life with Robyn or a return to the lifestyle that defined him for decades. And considering everything that has happened, neither option is simple. There's another reason this question matters. Kody's former wives aren't sitting around waiting for him to rebuild the old family. They're creating their own lives. Christine is married to David. Janelle has Pete. Meri has built an independent life. The children are also growing older and creating their own relationships and families. So even if Kody wanted to recreate the old Brown family, it wouldn't really be the same family anymore. The moment has passed. The people have changed, and the relationships have changed. Robyn once entered a family with 3 other wives. Now she has the entire marriage. And that means she has something else too, responsibility for what happens next. If Kody remains monogamous, their relationship becomes the final chapter of the original Sister Wives experiment. If Kody seeks another wife, the entire story changes again. And if their marriage continues struggling, fans may begin asking an even bigger question. Was the problem really plural marriage, or was the problem Kody and Robyn's relationship itself? That's the question nobody can answer yet. But the clues are becoming harder to ignore. Because after losing 3 wives, Kody can no longer blame the collapse of his family on the complexity of plural marriage alone. There is only one marriage left. And now that marriage has nowhere else to hide. And here's where things get even more complicated. Because while Kody and Robyn are trying to figure out their future, his former wives are moving further and further away from the life they once shared with him. Janelle has Pete. Christine has David. Meri has her independence. And Kody, he's still standing beside Robyn. But if the man who once believed he could have multiple wives has now been reduced to one marriage, the biggest question isn't whether Robyn is his last wife. It's whether she wants to remain his last wife. After everything that happened to the Brown family, one fact is impossible to ignore. Kody Brown's plural marriage is over. Christine is gone. Janelle is gone. Meri is gone. And Robyn is the only wife remaining in Kody's life. For a man who spent years defending plural marriage, that is an extraordinary ending to this chapter. But perhaps the bigger story isn't how Kody ended up with one wife. It's what happens now, because being the last wife doesn't automatically make Robyn forever wife. And the more we look at their relationship, the more complicated that question becomes. For years, Robyn was one of 4 women competing for Kody's time and attention. Today, she doesn't have to share him. But that doesn't necessarily mean the marriage became easier. In fact, Kody's own comments have suggested the opposite. He has acknowledged that he and Robyn have had to work through serious problems and that they were fighting for our marriage. That's significant because when the other marriages disappeared, Kody and Robyn were left alone with the consequences. There was no longer another relationship to blame, no other wife to compete with, no plural marriage schedule to explain their problems. It became simply Kody and Robyn. And that's where the real test began. Robyn once talked about wanting a family where the children could grow up together. She wanted the sister-wife relationship. She wanted the big family experience. But today, the Brown family is scattered across different lives. Christine has created a new family with David. Janelle is building her own future and has publicly introduced Pete. Meri has established her independence. And the adult Brown children have their own lives, relationships, and families. So even if Kody and Robyn remain together forever, the original dream they entered Sister Wives with is gone. That's something neither of them can simply reverse. Janelle's recent relationship reveal has made the contrast particularly obvious. After years of being connected to Kody, she is now publicly showing fans that life after that relationship can be exciting and fulfilling. Janelle introduced Pete in August 2026, and she has spoken positively about their relationship. Christine also welcomed Pete, calling him an awesome guy. And suddenly, the old family dynamic looks completely different. The women who once shared Kody are no longer waiting for the past. They're moving forward. This is where the future becomes unpredictable. Kody has spent years saying that plural marriage was important to him. But after the collapse of his relationships with Meri, Janelle, and Christine, returning to plural marriage would be an enormous decision. He would have to find someone willing to enter a complicated family structure. He would have to convince Robyn. And he would have to deal with the emotional consequences of everything that happened before. Most importantly, he would have to decide whether he actually wants another wife or whether he has finally accepted monogamy. And right now, there is no confirmed announcement that Kody is taking another wife. That's important. Fans can speculate. The show can tease possibilities. But speculation isn't confirmation. Still, viewers have already seen how sensitive this subject can be. Kody previously told Robyn that a woman had contacted him about joining the family. Robyn's reaction was far from enthusiastic. She questioned the woman's approach and clearly wasn't comfortable with the situation. That moment revealed something important. Even if Kody theoretically remains open to plural marriage, Robyn may not want to return to that life. And that creates a boundary Kody may eventually have to confront. Because if Robyn says no, what does Kody do? Does he choose Robyn? Or does he choose the belief system he spent decades defending? That's a question only they can answer. This is where internet rumors often go too far. There is no reliable confirmation that Robyn is preparing to divorce Kody. There is also no confirmed announcement that their marriage is ending. So a headline saying Robyn is leaving Kody would be speculation unless the couple themselves confirms it. But asking whether their marriage could survive long-term pressure is reasonable. Every marriage has pressure, but Kody and Robyn are carrying the history of an entire family. Their relationship has been connected to years of criticism, family conflict, and public scrutiny. And now they have to build a future without the plural family structure that originally brought them together. There is another possibility. Maybe this really is the final chapter. Maybe Kody has learned from everything that happened. Maybe he doesn't want another wife. Maybe Robyn doesn't want another wife. And maybe after years of chaos, the two of them finally want a quieter life together. If that's what happens, it would be a dramatic ending to Sister Wives. Because Kody began the series as a man proudly living plural marriage, he could end it as a man living a completely different life, one husband, one wife, one home, and no sister wives. That would be one of the biggest transformations in the show's history. Even if Kody and Robyn stay married forever, they can't recreate the family they once had. Christine isn't coming back to the old marriage. Janelle has moved into her own chapter. Meri has moved forward. And the children have grown up. The original Brown family has changed permanently. So perhaps the real ending isn't about whether Robyn becomes Kody's forever wife. Perhaps it's about whether Kody can finally accept that the family he once imagined is no longer possible. So, is Robyn really Kody Brown's forever wife? Right now, nobody outside their marriage can answer that with certainty. What we know is this: Kody and Robyn remain married. Robyn is his only remaining wife. Their marriage has experienced serious strain. Kody has acknowledged that they have had to fight for their relationship. And there has been discussion on the show about another woman potentially entering the family, although there is no confirmation that Kody is actually pursuing another marriage now. Meanwhile, the women who once shared Kody's life are moving forward. Christine has found her new family. Meri has created her own path, and Janelle has surprised fans by finding Pete. The Brown family that viewers met years ago doesn't exist anymore. And that's why Kody and Robyn's relationship is so fascinating. For the first time, there are no sister wives, no plural marriage competition, no other wife to point toward, no complicated schedule to hide behind. There is only Kody and Robyn. And if this marriage survives, it will have to survive on its own. Maybe the question was never, will Robyn be Kody's forever wife? Maybe the real question is, can Kody become the husband Robyn needs now that there are no other wives? Because the man Robyn married entered a plural family. The man she has today is living a completely different life. And whether that life becomes peaceful or falls apart may determine the final chapter of the Brown family story. For now, though, Kody and Robyn are still together. So until either of them confirms otherwise, the fairest conclusion is simple. Neza Robyn may very well be Kody Brown's last wife, but only time will tell whether she's truly his forever wife. And that's what makes the next chapter of Sister Wives so interesting, because the old family story is finished. Now we're watching to see what Kody and Robyn do with what's left.